What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ring the Bell show. I'm Christy Francesco. Jason Kent is here. And unless you guys follow me on my other podcast, the Hot Tag Wrestling podcast, this is the first time y'all have heard my voice or even really seen me since Game 7 of the NLCS. And, we are gathered here this evening to give our 2023 eulogy of the Philadelphia Phillies. This is not a spot that we desire to be in. This is not a spot that I especially thought that we would be in. I actually thought, as we speak right now, the Phillies would be in the second or third inning of the World Series, but that did not happen. So we're here basically to give everybody, I guess, a season in review from our perspective and our opinions. This show, every single week, mostly twice a week, was here with you guys, and we ran down this team every week for the entire season. And we were here for the very, very highs, and we obviously have been here in the deepest of lows with this Phillies team. And we're here tonight live to, I guess, get it all out of our system, to kind of review what we saw this year. We'll grade each position as in starters. As the off season rolls along, we'll have more shows on basically, what we expect from this team in the off season, if much at all. It's going to be a very, very perplexing off season. It's going to be very interesting to follow. But as I stop talking, I want to hand it over to Jay. Jay, you took the NLCS loss very hard. It was very difficult for you. It was something that was, on your mind for quite some time. And I kind of want to go to you now. And how do you feel now? Firstly, how did you feel, I'm going to say, the day after? We all know how we all felt live. We did a show right after. How did you feel the next day, and where are you as we sit here on November 1st?
Man, that next day was tough. For me, because you expected to win. Yes, I did joke. I tried to joke as much as I could. I said I did pick them to lose Game 7 of the NLCS. But going into that series, if we'd have lost to Atlanta, it would have stung. But it's Atlanta. They were the best team in baseball. If the Dodgers make it there, a Milwaukee, a team that you feel like you're equal to, or maybe not as good of, it wouldn't have hurt. But when you go in there, you're up. You take those first two games at home, dominant, and the way they looked all postseason, they just felt it. Felt it, and then those next two games happened, and you're like, yeah. And then Game 5 happened. You felt like the course was corrected, because the confidence I had, even after we went 2-2, I said it on air. I just don't believe when you have Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger going, you can lose that series.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And man, that's what it was. That's why I took it so hard, because there was no part of me at all. Mm-hmm. Not even going into that ninth inning of Game 7 did I not believe we were winning that game, because we were just the better team. And that's why it hurt. Like, at this point, I'm still mad. I think last Friday I was quite upset. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, today hurts, because this should be us. I haven't really thought about it much today, but today was the game I would have been to.
Yeah, it was. That would have been our game.
It would have been it. But it was I didn't even realize, literally, I didn't realize it was 3-1 Texas until today, because I haven't paid attention at all. But it's been hard, because you don't know how many of these opportunities you're going to get. And we do remember those, the 8 through 11. We remember the World Series, and then each year decline. So last year, we didn't get the World Series. A lot of us believe we could win it, and we had a very good team. We had it felt like an 2008 year, in the fact that year I remember going into it okay, we're not as good as a lot of these teams, but if we can make it against Tampa, we got a great shot.
Yep.
And you look at the other bracket, and you're like, man, we don't have. If we can make it and get Texas, we all wanted Houston, I know, but Texas, we got a shot, and it felt like that. And they squandered it, and I think this is for some of the younger guys. Hopefully, it's a very humbling experience, especially a guy like Stott and
Yep.
Bohm, Marsh, and them. 2 years in a row,
Mhm.
you make the World Series and you go here. Hopefully, it just okay. We can't just walk in, and it felt like we said it those last few games of the Arizona series. They knew they were better than Arizona, and they felt like they could just walk in and beat them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they have to realize now that they can't do it. And it stings because each year, your guys like Schwarber, Harper, Casty, Wheeler, Nola, if he resigns, JT, Turner, they're all getting a year older. So that window
Yep.
is closing. So you just
Yep.
don't know how many opportunities you're going to have left. I just other sports, like I think my dad only saw one championship in his lifetime in
Mhm.
Philadelphia sports. Well, three because of the Phillies, or the Flyers, those two. But it's like he went. People go their whole lives, especially when you're big sports fanatics. It's in a
Yeah.
big Northeast city. You want to see it. You want to be able to celebrate it with everybody. So I think that's when you go down to it, it's tough, especially when you're better than that other team. Like there's no doubt. I don't think anybody believed Arizona was going to win that series. Even Arizona, after the first two games of that series, even Arizona knew they lost.
Yeah, and I can disclose this information. I was talking to my dad on the phone right after the Atlanta series, and he and I were kind of on the same wavelength. And my dad is in his mid 50s, so he was around for the 1980 team, the 93 team, the 83 Phillies, 93, then of course the run from '07 to 11. And I said to him on the phone, I was like, look, I think from top to bottom, this is the best Phillies team I've ever seen in my life. And obviously we look at the '08 team, they won a World Series, the '09 team went back, but that '08 and '09 team, um, their
Weren't even
pitching
the
was.
best of that teams though, either. Like the team that won it for us probably would get smoked by the 11 team.
And the 11 team and the '08 team would probably, if this team's bats stayed hot, would smoke them. I think that the 2023 Phillies, there's an argument to be made from top to bottom. Arguably one of the best constructed Phillies rosters ever. I mean, it's you look at that team from top to bottom, Jay, and just star, 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 really good players. And then again, you look at the top two pitchers on a good day. Aaron Nola is a really good too. Zach Wheeler is a legitimate ace. And then throughout the entire season, we were preached to how great of a bullpen the Phillies had. So statistically speaking, it's one of the best Phillies teams ever constructed. And I said that to my dad, and he replied, "I think I might have to agree with you." That's why it hurts so much to me and I've said this. We talked about it in Game 7 post game, and I said I thought the series was over in Game 6, and I thought that because I said to myself the Phillies had one big advantage going for them left, and that was the fear of the visiting team coming in at Citizens Bank Park. Once the Diamondbacks took Game 6 at CBP, I thought, there it is. It's like, you know, it's like giving garlic to a vampire. It's like it's like that's it. It's the kryptonite of that team. I felt like now this Diamondbacks team, again, we've said it at nauseum, came into this playoffs on house money, 84 win team.
Yeah.
They have nothing left to fear. They have nothing to lose. They just went into and did the unthinkable for Major League Baseball this year, or even dating back to last season too, coming into Citizens Bank Park and beating the Phillies. They did it in Game 6, and I said, "How do they recover from this?" And they didn't. They
And
simply did not recover.
you know what's insane? I feel like this whole Philly season, I feel like almost up and down the roster, you can look at the player, and it really encapsulates the team as well. A team of halves, man. So half of the season, for the first half of your season, you have players terrible like Trey. The
Mhm.
second half, Casty went down. Stott, went down a little bit. The first half of the season, they weren't as good. Come July on, they were one of the best teams in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
First half of the playoffs, they're one of the hottest teams in the history of Major League playoffs. And
Yeah.
then they just went cold. It just seems like it's a team that when it's up, it's good. They're there. When it's not, they are just very, very, very terrible. Yeah, my hair it's getting long, so I got to put it back nowadays.
And
Got to look
Jay,
good.
let's not forget, since like June 1st, this was the second best team in baseball.
Yeah.
I,
So
I mean, it's they were 90 and 72, but they had a rough start in the first 2 months of the season. I'm not going to let the Phillies get away with the fact that since June, this was the
yeah,
second best team in the world. From an offensive standpoint, from a record standpoint, it was all there. And then when you get into the playoffs, you get the Marlins. You stomp out the Marlins. You get to the Braves, and for the second year in a row, you stomp out you kill them. You destroy the Braves again. Then you go to the Diamondbacks, and we're all sitting here like, oh my God, like it's like 2008. It's all written. It's like destiny in a way. I hate saying that. It's so hokey, but it's still like it's
it
like
felt like
baseball.
it. It really felt
Like
like it.
baseball destiny. And then I guess when the Phillies won that game to 10-0, that was it. That was their final shot over the bow, and and it just collapsed after that. And Jay, I really just don't know how to compartmentalize this collapse. And we didn't talk about this after Game 7. This has been considered and talked about as the biggest collapse in franchise history.
Oh,
This is 100. It's
this is
100.
one of those you may not get over type of this one sits with you. And that's why I felt um it really that's why that's why it hurt so much for me that the next the few following days after, especially because you invest so much in this team. And I know we all say, we joke around, but it's not like I'm not a fan that's coming up when they're winning, so I'm going to get I'm going to show up. I've been there through some of
Exactly.
those really down
Yeah.
years. So when you get here and you look at a team and you're like, they should win. There's not many teams that you felt like, okay, especially in Phillies history, there's not a lot that you really believe can win championships. And you looked at this team and you felt that they could 100% win a championship this season. And that's why it hurt so bad, because you're right. This felt like one of the best teams I've ever seen play, regardless of how you feel about some of the players together as a team, very dominant.
Yeah.
And for them to
As
lose
a
like
unit,
Arizona like that.
I mean, as a unit, you look at this roster, a full season, a full healthy Bryce Harper, you would have gotten probably 35 and 100. Schwarber, 45 plus over 100. Casty has a career high over 100 RBIs. Alec Bohm almost touching 100 RBIs. This was a roster, man, that, it's not the Atlanta Braves, who was just absolutely just top 1 through 9, a juggernaut. But this is a Phillies team where you could have logically have had 5 guys get over 25 and 100. And you're looking at this and it's like, how did we lose to the Arizona Diamondbacks? And I know the answer is, and you've said this before, Jay, and I agree with you, that's just baseball, baby. Like, that happens. That's the best team rarely ever wins. And it's things just hit the fan, and it was sad. And I this is my first time in basically a week or so, 2 weeks, letting all of this out. I've had so much festering. I've watched almost none sports at all since Game 7, and that's a fact. I'm not joking about that. I've basically watched no sports. I woke up this morning just like Jay did. I completely forgot that it was, if the Rangers win tonight, they win the World Series. I didn't know until I opened up Twitter mid-afternoon, and they said MLB posted something about that the Rangers are looking to win their first ever World Series tonight, and I was just like, oh, I had no idea. I still can't get over the fact that the Diamondbacks beat us. So that's not nice, Anthony. I'm not posting that. I love Jason. So that's where we are. We spent the first 15 minutes kind of venting and getting pardon me. But we spent the last 15 minutes, venting about the end of the season. Now let's kind of get into the grades are, talking about this team from a positional standpoint and going through these players. And I'm going to start with behind the plate, and we're going to talk about JT Realmuto. Jay, I'm going to let you lead off talking about JT a little bit.
Man, this it was a tough season. I when you look at him at the season as a total, he'd had 20 home runs, 63 RBIs. The average was down. He didn't feel his usual self. I felt like at times this season, he was definitely worse offensively than he has been in the past. But he still is in the running for a Gold Glove. So he's still there defensively. He's not what he once was, but he still has it. If I had to grade JT for this season, I would give him a C+. I think that's a pretty fair grade for him. But it feels like he is on the decline now, which kind of stinks after that contract we gave him. But you kind of expect it with the amount of games he plays. Just he's still playing 100 and what he play 135 games this season.
He caught 135 games. So
that's just for any guy, you don't see catchers doing that. So it's still impressive what he can do. And we don't know if you can really give him much rest with the amount of money you're paying him going forward, but they might want to think about trying to do something and get him, try to get him some rest more down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he'll be 33 years old midway through spring training next year. He's 32 now. He turns 33 March 18th. He still has 2 full more years left of that 5-year, $115.5 million contract. And you look at the guy, and he still finished. I mean, the only thing that bothered me, his slash line was rough, but still had 20 home runs, 65 RBIs, did have 16 stolen bases. His walks were down, his strikeouts were up by about 20. But that slash line's bothering me, Jay. A 252 batting average. His on base percentage went down 32 points. And his slugging went down from 480 to 450. And that OPS went from an 820 to a 760. Look, to be quite honest, I think what we got out of JT this year is probably going to become the norm moving forward. That's something we're going to have to get used to. So I really can't give him anything more than like a C+ or a B, because if you compare his numbers to every other catcher in baseball, he's still top 5. And obviously, that just tells you that the catcher position is what it's pretty much always been in Major League Baseball. But the fact of the matter is, and we all know the Phillies are very common like this, there's no replacement for the guy in sight. There isn't. And that's an issue. That's something they're going to have to answer soon. I don't know if the Phillies can move forward playing this guy 135 games, 140 games every year.
You know what does stink, though? When you look at it, they did trade Ohapi, and he had a pretty good year for Marsh, who now is looking like, you can play him, but you weren't expect. That's not what you expected when you traded. Yeah. So it does that kind of hurts.
It does. So I'm gonna. What was your grade again for JT? C+. That's. I'm gonna have to be it that way, because also, let's not kid around here. His defense took a hit this year, and his arm did not look good in the postseason at all. So I was not too happy with defensive postseason JT Realmuto. Okay, let's kind of go to first base, and we'll get it out of the way now. I'm not going to talk about Alec Bohm because the majority of his season was at third base. So let's just go with let's just start with Bryce Harper. Bryce played basically August and September and all through the postseason at first base. We assume that's where he's going to be for the foreseeable future. Obviously, Dave Dombrowski, the president of baseball operations, said in that postseason press conference that they're not going to do anything in their off-season plans until they figure out where he wants to play. Obviously, I think he would want to play right field, but I really do think he knows what's in his best interest moving forward.
And the team's best interest.
And the team's best interest. It's first base. And I'll tell you what, I think he loves first base too because he worked his ass off to be a really good first baseman. And Jay, I can't sit here and say that I'm not confident with him at all playing 150 games at first base. I think he's a very above average second for
I think
fielding
he
first
looked
base.
he looked very good in his
Yeah,
time there. There's definitely some things, his first year, what, how many games he actually played in his career first base. So there was definitely some things he needs to work on. But
yeah,
overall, for him taking over, like I know he's still an athlete, but it's not an easy position to learn. As I learned in Moneyball, when they tried to teach Pratt, first base. So I get it. Ron Washington let us know it's a hard position.
it
Um,
is.
but I hope that's the one thing I didn't like that they did say they're going to kind of leave it up to Bryce. I
Yeah,
hope that's more of just a outward thing where internally they're
yeah,
like, listen, you have to stay at first. Like we need you
yeah,
there. That's the best
yep,
case. And for what you're paying him for, could potentially be offensively. If he plays a
mhm,
full season, you get him out of right field, so you get rid of any injury risk out there. Yeah, I could see him, outside the BS getting hit by a pitch. He could play 150 games. And if you're getting 150 games of Bryce for the next few years, that's a potential, 40, 120 type of guy. Um,
yeah.
so, I can't give him any, for the season he had, I can't give him anything less than an A. I feel
I
like
agree.
he was that good.
I agree. And look, we obviously we from a regular season standpoint, that's how we kind of have to grade this in a way. Playoffs, I give him a B. It was an A until the NLCS, where he really, just like everybody else, just completely bombed out, which was probably the most disappointing of all of them. Although Trey was probably right there because he went into the NLCS hitting like 9 million. So
Yeah.
Trey was very disappointing. But from a regular season standpoint, look, the guy came back quicker than any athlete ever, played 126 games, learned a brand new position, and still hit 30 doubles, 135 hits, 21 homers, 72 RBIs, stole 11 bases, 80 walks. Um,
Just a
he,
phenomenal
from a full
season.
from yeah. He hit 293 with a 401 on base percentage and a 500 slugging. So, look, for a guy that was coming back from a completely repaired elbow, I and look, we all know, and I've admitted this nonstop. I am a 100% Bryce Harper shill, and that's fair statement. He's my favorite pro athlete. I still I shredded him during the NLCS post games, and I did what he deserved. But from a regular season standpoint, and what we got after what we probably expected, we didn't expect to see the guy till mid June, late June. He comes back
Yeah.
in May. How can you not give him an A? I mean, I
It
just don't.
just and that just lets I feel like as a fan base, I think that's the one positive when I do look at everything, that he's the type of dude, he busted his ass to get back
He
and
did.
learn a new position before
Yep.
anybody thought he could make it back. So I think this one, out of all the players, this one's going to sit with him, I think, the
Mhm.
hardest, and he's 100%. He's going to have these guys ready next year. But yeah, he is not happy about that, about his, the final few games of that postseason, the way it ended for him.
No, I agree. I'm actually trying to find his postseason numbers here. I can't for some reason. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So yeah, I mean, regardless of um what happened um in this season at the end, he still ended up, hitting over 300 in the postseason.
But
So
the one thing I think they're going to have to work on, and like you said, grading the whole thing. He was walked 13 times. You look at
yeah.
between him and Schwarber, 13 and 9. I think that's something. I'm sure we'll talk about it later in the offseason, but they're going to have to work on protecting these two guys. Or you know, Topper's going to have to put lefty lefty at some point.
hmm I agree, and like that's again, and my issue is, and I hope Topper learned his lesson, and he kind of admitted to it in his post game pressure. I don't know if he was just appeasing everybody, but I think you got to realize, you got to give your best player opportunities to play and to hit and to drive in runs. And when your 3-hole hitter is being walked 2 times a game because your 4-hole hitter can't get hits, you got to change something. You can't have your 3-hole hitter being walked all the time. That's not how it works. So I think that's something like you said, they got to protect them. They have to. And so yeah, Bryce gets an A from both of us. I'm really excited to see what the offseason brings. Um, who knows what this team's going to do? But yeah, that's for a show at a later time. Let's go to Bryson Stott. This guy is arguably, I'm saying arguably, the best second baseman in the league. Top 2, top 3, and they're all pretty much interchangeable at this point. He's gonna win a Gold Glove. He absolutely should have gotten a nod in the All-Star game. I'm not a big fan of the All-Star game, but I don't like when guys that deserve it don't get there. That's where it bothers me. That's where the whole popularity contest thing pisses me off, because guys like Bryson Stott deserved his flowers and to be a 2023 All-Star. Look, this kid's a stud, man. Like, he's just a flat out stud. He ended the season hitting 280, which was a almost 50-point a rise from his rookie season. He played 151 games, 165 hits, 32 doubles, 15 home runs, 62 RBIs, 31 stolen bases for Bryson Stott this year. A 280 batting average, a 330 on base, and a 420 slugging. Jay, man, like, what else can you say about Bryson Stott other than this? He's a superstar. He's a star.
When you look at, and he did have to kind of move over for Trey. I think eventually he does go. He's probably going back to shortstop. That he's that good. He shouldn't. He probably should have played him over this year. But yeah, I didn't. I don't know if I expected 280. I know going into the season you were really high on Stott, and he was your guy to really break out this season, and he really did.
Yeah.
When you're watching this kid from a plate standpoint, he's definitely a guy. In a traditional lineup, could be a leadoff hitter because he does take a lot of pitches. He does work a lot of counts. And to also, again, like you said, hit 280. I think he provides a good amount of pop for what for what his size and what he is. But he's definitely a dude that can be in your 1-hole, 2-hole. He's a prototypical leadoff guy. He's a dude I would love to see lead off next year because I get what JT gives you or what Schwarber gives you, but if you could put that left-handed bat up there with 15 home runs and get those stolen bases at the top of the lineup, he could steal more. He stole that many lower in the lineup, maybe with guys in front of him. So if you get him in a leadoff position, batting there, I think the sky's the world. And still you'd like to see him walk a little bit more, but you can't really complain with everything else he does. He's one of the most complete players at second base. He does everything really good. So to me, I'm going B+ for this season, and he probably does win the Gold Glove this year. That's how good he was.
You have him at a B+. I'm going to slot him at that A. I think he deserved that A. So I'm going to go with that there. So we're pretty much on the same wavelength there. And I do think the best is yet to come for him. Let's go to shortstop, and this one is the most difficult of them all. And it's Trey Turner. Turner comes in this last offseason. He was one of the first guys to sign. It was really quick. 11-year, $300 million contract. He started the season off again, not great at all. If you look at his splits, let me just I'm trying to find where he was in the months, but he was a completely different player after August. And I mean, look what he did after. Okay, I'm sorry, right here. So in April,
I think
and March,
August 4th, it was started.
Yeah. So you look at him, and look, you have to look at his numbers, and you have to kind of understand like what our expectations were of him, because if you look at his month by month, it's not like the worst thing you've ever seen, but we have to look at it as It's just not what we were used to and what we expected. In April and March, in 29 games, he hit 260. And then in May, he hit 208 in 25 games. June, he hit 279 in 26. July, right back down, a 215 batting average in July. And then once August hit, once August kicked in, 27 games in August, he hit 335. And then September, October, he hit 300. And his on base percentages those final 2 months were, touching 375, 380. So he was absolutely unbelievable offensively from August on. So I really have to grade him completely. And what's really going to mess this whole thing up, Jay, is that he was the worst defensive shortstop in baseball. He had the most errors in the league. I think it was almost 30 errors.
And that's how many did they not give him either? Like, there's a lot of plays where I'm watching them, like, that's 100%. They're very lenient with that error these days. They're giving hits out like candy.
Very much so. So that's where I really have to. I struggle right now. He had 150 strikeouts, which was, by the way, a career high by about 20. So we get the guy, and he strikes out a career high. It's like a thing here. Look, he was on the field a ton. He did play 155 games, but I have a hard time giving him anything above a C, because I have to include. I have to include defense. He had 23 errors at shortstop this year, led the league. I can't.
That's more generous than I can't, to me, C- is the absolute highest. I've been struggling with a D and a C- just because, I do get the last 2 months of the season, and his beginning run in the playoffs was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He hit 16 home runs post All-Star break.
Yeah.
He was just fantastic from that standing ovation on. It was amazing to see as a fan, but as good as he was during that time, that stretch, he was equally, if not worse, as bad on during some of those stretches for the first 4 months of the season. And like you said, when we signed Trey Turner, you didn't expect that. I didn't expect 330 every month, but I sure as hell didn't expect the 215 month. I'll tell you that. Watching a kid throughout his career, you don't expect that. So it's you got to grade it equally, and the defense really hurts him. He's definitely a guy that's probably going to help with a move over to second base to make it easier on him, because he does not have he has a noodle arm. He can't make that throw.
No arm.
So you can't have him. You can't keep him there. You're a professional short. Maybe try him. I know early in his career he did play center field. I don't know how much you want to do there. I know he ain't gonna get no assists. Got no assists, but he can run. That's his best asset. But
he can definitely run.
You gotta keep him out of there. So I had anything. To me, it's somewhere between a D- and a C+, or D-.
I see.
No, I'm sorry. D+, C-.
To a C-.
It's right there, because his defense was not good.
No. Even in the playoffs, it was. I mean, he lost a game in the playoffs, maybe two. So it was just really hard to watch. All right, we're gonna take a pause for the calls, and we're gonna pay some bills here. And look, let's hear. And I'm, of course, big time fan of Manscaped. And look, it's not a bird. I mean, it could be, and it's not a plane, but it's a ball trimmer that's probably sent from space. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking about a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultrasphere this year by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code BASEBALL20. High tech for low places, and that's Manscaped. So look, AI is cool, but I think this might be the biggest technological advancement the world has ever seen, right? I mean, I might not be overdoing it too much there, but every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why I trust Manscaped with all my sensitive areas. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. We also have dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length setting combs, and oh, did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? No more wet shaving down there. Count me in. This bad boy also features dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones so you can shed some light on your darkest places. We're talking 3 length setting combs for all your desired lengths, and this thing is just nonstop. Taking it on the go, Manscaped has you covered. This puppy comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering and or weird looks in the airport. This right here is on the cutting edge of cutting pubes. Upgrade your ball trimmer and your life will follow. So get 20% off and free shipping with our code baseball20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with our code baseball20 at manscaped.com. I can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship. So get yours today from our folks at Manscaped. Woof.
Yeah, it does look like a spaceship.
It does. And I kind of want to show people something because I'm going to be doing this at a later date. We're going to be doing a giveaway. So here is it right here. If you all can see, I'm going to point it down. I won't go too far. But there you go. Show them.
Not going to show them the job it's done. You're not going to
no.
everything.
Nope. So the lawnmower 5.0. This is it here, unopened. Our friends over at Manscaped sent a few of these over to us to try. So Jay is going to be, I'm sure, doing that. He's going to do a video tutorial for all of you. But no, we're going to be doing a giveaway of one of those things. They're like $150, I think, just standard price. And I'm going to give one of these away to you guys for absolutely free. So check out our socials later on when we announce it. That's going to be more like a holiday Christmas type giveaway for y'all. So be on the lookout for that. Excited to give one of these bad boys away to one lucky winner. All right, so let's get back here to business and let's get over to third base. Another guy who, shined like Bryson Stott this season. And that's Alec Bohm. You talk about a guy who last year I dreaded whenever a baseball was going to be hit down the line to third base. This season, it's like everything, it just shifted over in the infield, and I was terrified whenever a ball was hit to shortstop, and I had no worries whenever a ball was hit to Alec Bohm this season. I have to give Alec Bohm a solid B here because I think he's getting better as a hitter. But what he has done to upgrade himself defensively was darn near astonishing to me. I mean, he went from probably a basement-dwelling defensive third baseman to an above-average one in one season. So, Jay, I'll go to you. Your thoughts and your grade on Alec Bohm this year.
Yeah, he was a guy I definitely, I thought he was going to take big leaps this year with his bat. I would have liked to have seen the power numbers up a little bit, but 20 home runs, 97 RBIs, can't complain about. I still think he's, you even hear a lot of the pundits say, he's definitely a guy that can get to that 300 mark. I mean, that's where I want to see him get to. I'm going B- just because I do think there were still some instances there where the defense lacked, and I have to knock him I really do for the NLCS. I think a lot of
bad.
You're putting, because you're the guy, and this is a guy I think they have when they brought him up, belief that in the future he's going to be a 4-hole hitter. And if he can get those numbers up, he totally can be a 4-hole hitter. But he just looked lost. he felt like he shied away from the moment of being the big guy. He had the opportunity, and that's why I picked him to win the NLCS if they won the MVP, because I thought that would happen, and I thought he was ready for that moment, and it felt like he wasn't ready to be that guy yet. So I have to knock on, B minus isn't shabby. But and he still, it's weird to think he still has room to grow offensively and defensively. So his future's bright, and I know we've discussed it before. This is a guy, if you're the Phillies, you might want to talk to this offseason and trying to lock up, long term.
I agree. So if you look at it, going over comparisons, he played 152 games last season. He hit 24 doubles, 13 home runs, 72 RBIs at a 280 batting average. This season, 145 games, 31 doubles, 20 home runs, 97 RBIs. His walks also went up this year, 42 to 31, and his strikeouts went down this year from 110 to 94. His batting average went down 6 points, but his on-base percentage went up 15 points, and his slugging percentage went up almost 50 points. So same with his OPS. His OPS went up 60 points. So this is a guy who is 100% on the rise as an offensive stud for this Phillies team. The only problem I also didn't like is he led the majors with 23 double plays. So that's not something I'm too thrilled with. But I think one thing was made clear, though, Jay, and you can disagree. Maybe you can agree. I don't know. I think it's clear that he's at least shouldn't start out as the 4-hole hitter next year.
No, I think after watching that, it's tough to really say. Maybe the only thing I may say, if you give him time throughout the season, because I don't think he ever thought he was going to be that guy in that situation throughout the year. So I think if you give, in the beginning of the season, I know Topper, I think he had 116 different lineups this year. I'd like to see I'd like to see a consistent lineup when you have everyday guys in there. So if you go in the beginning and be like, hey, listen, you got to be the guy after Harper. I think you give him that season to see if he's got it or not. And then after that, if, going to the playoffs or, you get a half a season and he's just struggling in that moment, then you move him out. But I want to give it to him early in the year when it's not as big of a deal to let him get used to it. Because it's tough to throw a guy in there who's, at least I would think, like, that's a lot of pressure for him. And for any player, you're going behind Bryce Harper, who at that point was one of the hottest playoff hitters you've ever seen. And hey, you're going to see a lot because they're going to walk him. And and he just folded. And I would give him another shot early in the year just to see how he reacts.
Okay. I mean, why not? I guess. Let's see what they do in the offseason if they bring on anybody in.
Exactly.
Anything can change at that point. All right. The one I've been waiting for the entire night so far is Kyle Schwarber. Played the majority of left field until the playoffs, thank God. But let's talk about it. 160 games. The dude only missed 2 days during the regular season. 47 home runs, 104 RBIs. Led the league for the second consecutive year with strikeouts with 215, which was 15 more than last season. However, he only walked 86 times last season, walked 126 times this year, also had 108 runs, hit a grand total of 197. His on-base percentage did go up 20 points. However, his slugging did go down 30 points this year, and his OPS went down 10 points. Boy, oh boy, this is a tough one. Jay, I'll start with you because this is your boy here. Not really your boy, but this is, the guy we talked about at legitimate nauseum during the season. I promise everyone that won't happen again unless he bats lead off. But where do you grade Kyle Schwarber?
I don't know how to grade him because I'm going to grade him.
He was also an awful left fielder, but that's not his fault.
He's not a good defender. He out of the 5 tools, he gives you 1 tool. He's got power. And
Yeah, that's correct.
shown
Yeah.
he's got 48 singles and 47 home runs. Okay, that's all I need to know about the guy. Like he's great at what he does. So
Mhm.
for what he does, for as a power hitter, you give him an A. But as the guy, as the player overall, it's tough for me to give him anything better than a C minus, because it's tough. Like you really have to respect the 47 home runs. We can all hate that he bats leadoff, and he takes a brunt of it when he shouldn't. It's 100% should be topper. But it's tough to give him any. You can't just hit home runs. Yes, scoring runs is the name of the game. And it falls on him that he gets less RBIs than he should because he bats leadoff. But he's terrible at everything else. So it's tough for me to give him anything higher than a C minus, just because he can't play defense, can't do anything but hit the long ball.
I agree. I'm gonna give him a C. Because look, he did do something that many players have ever done, and that's 100 runs, 100 walks, 100 RBIs, 47 home runs. He was also a pretty decent player in the postseason. So I'm not gonna completely shred the guy, but look, that 197 is ugly.
Really
I mean,
ugly.
it's hard, it's really hard for me to just say anything other than, and it's crazy because we live in a new world, in a new age world of analytics which is really weird. He's like this weird enigma with analytics, because any other person that loves baseball or has been watching baseball forever would look at this guy and be like, he's hitting 197. That's just not good. But it's like that home run number.
It's tough to replace.
People. It is. Oh no, look,
that's it.
I don't think Kyle Schwarber sucks. Not many people can hit 45 home runs a season and over 100 RBIs and
batting
leadoff. But it's just odd because as a baseball purist, I go, man, that 47 and 105 looks really damn good. But then you look at that 215 strikeouts. You look at
197.
He had more. 197. His on base wasn't above 350. He had more home runs than base hits. Like it's really just odd for me to look at this other than just he's an anomaly.
Very
and he
much
really
so.
is. And I'm gonna say, if you can get a really good number 2 pitcher for the guy, I do it. I still do it. It's hard for me to do that because I've even criticized you. I've criticized Dean. I've criticized John.
Criticized John.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'll criticize that kid till I'm off this earth. But it's hard for me to logically say or respond to somebody if they question me, why would you trade him? And I go, I don't know why. Because 47 and 105 is really hard to replace. It's not difficult to replace every other aspect of him. It's not. It's really not
100%, not even close. I can go get it. You could replace most of those numbers. See here, and here's the question, and I don't want to get too, but like if he could give me, I would lose 15 to 20 plus home runs if he could just give me an extra 40 or 50 on the on base percent or on the batting average, because then his OBP is going to be over 400, and the RBI numbers would, I think, actually go up because he's hitting more. It's not, like he's literally a home run or a strikeout, and it's just tough.
What you're doing is you're asking for Rhys Hoskins.
Damn, I never thought I would do that. But
Rhys Hoskins,
I guess you are.
Rhys Hoskins, man, 30 home runs, 79 RBIs, and hit 246, 169 strikeouts, 75 walks.
Who do you want? I guess there's the question. Because neither one of them, then, because I can't. I don't
want either of them because they both suck on defense too.
Yeah, it's if you're telling me, if you're in the perfect world, if next year we go in and say, listen, lefty, or Harper's going 2 and Schwarber's going 4, I'm 1,000% okay with that. The only way I want Schwarber back is if he goes 4. But I agree. If anybody says that you wouldn't try to get a number 1 or number 2 guy, especially a guy, a Corbin Burns or somebody, a Glass, somebody, one of those big dudes, one of those big names, I think you have to, because I think this team lacked pitching more in the playoffs when you're having to do bullpen games and throwing Ranger 3 innings. You have to me, solidify that, because I think you're a better team if you add the top end arm more than what he gives you.
I agree. And that's a conversation we'll have during the offseason. So we're 50 minutes in, so let's get this ball rolling. Center field, I'm basically just going to break this down to just Brandon Marsh. He was the majority of the center field this season. He started 105 games as a center fielder. So clearly he's the one we kind of should be grading. I'm not going to grade Johan Rojas. He just didn't play enough. And I'm not going to grade Pache because, again, just did not play enough. So I'm going to go with Brandon Marsh here, and I'm going to surprise some people, but I'm going to give the kid a B+, and that's even with his decline playing center field. One, because I do think he was able, as a good outfielder should, he was able to transition to left, and he's a good left fielder. But I'm giving him a B+ because, again, we talked about this a lot. This is a dude that came to the Phillies as a defensive specialist who really couldn't hit that well. Well, in 2023, in 133 games, 12 home runs, 60 RBIs, he hit 277 with a 375 on base percentage. He was a big deal. And I like the guy, he hit 295 against righties, 230 against lefties. That was a problem against lefties, but we see that often in baseball these days. I'm gonna have to give the guy a B+ because of he completely went above and beyond my expectations from an offensive standpoint, Jay.
So he was a guy I was a little higher on than you offensively. I remember when he came over, I did think he could, I thought he had a better hit. To me, I went somewhere between a C+ and a B-, just because I was very disappointed with what he gave you in center field. After last season and what you brought him over here for to really solidify that center field spot, he looked, when you're watching him this year, he looked like a guy that almost never played center field. The reads on a lot of balls just weren't good.
He never took
missing
control.
Things. No, and he just, so to me, I understand the move to left, but I that should have never happened. So I definitely knock him for that. But what he gave you offensively, I think, if you can, if he can stay in left field, you would like a little more power from a left fielder. But I think what he gives you defensively over there now, what he can give you at the bottom of that lineup, I do think it's, you got a guy for a while, so you're pretty happy with what he gave you this season and what you have going forward at left field.
I agree. So, all right, let's go to another just perplexing human being. A guy that I will spend an entire offseason begging the Phillies to move on from. And that's Nicholas Castellanos. I don't even know where to start. The first half of the season, he looked damn good. He hit 301 with a 345 on base percentage, 13 home runs, 55 RBIs, 104 hits. And that second half of the season, he dropped down to a 235 batting average and a 271 on base. It went into where, he hit 160 in July. 240 in September into October, had a decent stretch in the postseason, hit 265 overall in the postseason, but hit 077 in the NLCS.
For his last 20+.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at his season overall, 29 home runs, a career high, 106 RBIs. A very low on-base percentage, which we know because the guy would swing at a ball at the moon if that would have called for a 312 on-base percentage. Dude, how do you grade Nick Castellanos?
I don't know. Like, he's another one. It's just the season of halves for this team. It really is for most of this team, and his average and on base percentage dropped tremendously in the second half, but his power numbers went up. So it's like, you don't know if there's some core, maybe he's trying harder for the home run ball. I think you have to give him, I think a solid a C plus, a B minus with him. While he doesn't play great right field, he made no errors, and there were some play. I think he had 8 or 9 outfield assists.
Mhm.
So he does have, he does give you some stuff defensively. But the power numbers were back where you expected. You just don't know what it is with him. He's been, since we signed him, really good or really bad. And there's
Yeah.
really he doesn't give you the average. He gives you great or nothing.
I agree, and it's something I think I'm sure their analytics team is going to look at. He played 80 games, batting fourth, and he did hit 300. Um, he played 6 games in the 6 hole and hit 365, and then he played 4 games, batting eighth, where he also hit 365. So
So bat him in the even number order. Get it? I got it.
yeah, I mean,
Bat him in those
you
2,
know,
4, 6, 8.
Yeah, I mean, in that fourth spot where he played the majority of the season, 80 games, 15 home runs, 57 RBIs, 20 walks, hit 300, a 340 on base percentage. So again, maybe that's what they explore in next season is just maybe somehow getting his mind right and keeping him in that 4 hole. Because look, Castellanos on paper is a very good 4 hole hitter.
Yes.
He drives the ball. He puts the ball in play. But
Big
I
doubles guy. Yeah. Big
big
doubles, home
doubles
runs.
guy,
Yeah.
big doubles guy. Um, but God, man, I don't know what to do. I don't want him back next year, but my assumption is he's going to be back. Um,
Can you bring
I don't
both
know.
him and Schwarber back next year? I think it's for
Something
me. It's
has
tough
there
to have
has to
both
be a
of. There has to be some.
change. Yeah,
To me, I agree. I think you have to. One of them have to get traded in the offseason because you can't move
yeah.
them mid-season. And if you do that, like it's more you're blowing it up. But I think one of those two, and I know that's down the road, but I find it tough to bring both of them back offensively next year.
I agree. I'm going to give Castellanos a C, just a straight C, because look, overall in the regular season, he did a lot of good things. He didn't lose you any games in right field, which was big. He just didn't have any problems over there, and I got to give him credit for that. Um, career high in RBIs, which is one of the reasons we really wanted him here, was that he can drive in runs, and he drove in a career high. So that's great. All right, so let's round out this whole grading process with the pitching staff as a whole. You look at the main cogs. You look at Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker. I'm even going to throw in Christopher Sanchez there because I think he's a big part of that team moving forward. And then the bullpen as a whole. Jay, what do you give the Phillies pitching staff as a whole in 2023?
Man, to me, it's tough because I just don't know. I think a B minus is kind of where I'd put him. I think your top end guys. To me, I think Wheeler really stands out, and I think you saw some good things this year from Sanchez. I just don't. I could go C plus, but I think probably closer to C plus. But it's with new age baseball, they're really up there in a lot of those statistical categories. When
Yeah, I
we
know.
see those ERAs where it's jumping out to me, when we read that, we're like, man, that's terrible. Some of those mid threes, low fours are going to, I think, going forward, be more of the norm for even your number 2 starters. So I think you got to give him a little bit benefit that when you look across the league and some of the numbers, how they're really going backwards some.
I agree. So I think I'm going to give him a C. And I have to. And I say that because Aaron Nola was just garbage in the regular season. And then, of course, he showed up big time in the NLCS. But Aaron Nola, and look, I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, he had an amazing stretch of 5 or 6 starts in a row at the end of the season going into the playoffs. He was almost unhittable for a lot of those starts in the end. And I'm 100% can admit that. Just because I might not like the guy doesn't mean I can't sit in here and, give flowers when flowers are due. He was spectacular. I praise him for doing his job. That was what he should have been doing all season. He was dreadful all year. I mean, you're talking a high 4 ERA. Zach Wheeler was tremendous. I mean, Zach was awesome. Again, if when I look back at Wheeler, another great season, a lot of innings again, 192 innings, which was 40, almost 40 more than 2022. And they were talking last year how they were worried about his innings. He had 192 innings this season. His WHIP was barely above 1. I think it was 1.078. 212 strikeouts, a 360 ERA. I think that ERA is a little misleading sometimes. He was really, really good this season. The wild one to me, and it continued into the playoffs, and it's going to be a big topic of conversation during the offseason, is Taijuan Walker. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract going into this season. He led the team in wins with 15, a 4.40 ERA, 172 and 2/3 innings, a 1.31 WHIP. I don't even know what to really say about this guy, dude. I mean, if you look at him, 15 wins, he had a lower ERA. He had a lower ERA than Aaron Nola, but yet, in July he had a 3.86 ERA. August 4.76, September, October 5.93. It just progressively got worse.
How do you even justify bringing him back? It's tough when you paid him that money and that to me, when you look at some of the things we've done, you pay all this money, he doesn't get one play, not even an inning in playoffs, and he was not happy. He tweeted out about it. That's a tough one right there. That's a tough. You can't not pitch and then bring him out next season. I don't know if that's something you can get past as a team and a player. That's crazy.
I mean, how do you sign a guy to a $70 million contract and he doesn't see a half an inning in the entire postseason? I mean, you brought him in here to be your third starter, and he doesn't see any. It's incredible to me. Christopher Sanchez saw a playoff innings before Taijuan Walker. So, I mean, that goes into my grading system. I think Christopher Sanchez was really good, and I mean really good. I don't know what to think about Ranger. I don't. I think he's got ice in his veins, and he was so good. But how do you not
think the injury
how
stuff?
Can you that too? But
is he going to be you might have to eventually move into a bullpen, like a high end. I was going
to say that.
You may have to do that, because if he I can't keep going with a guy that's going to give me 4 to 5 innings as a starter. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe, there has been talks, and they said, coming up, he's a guy, you can put at the back end of that bullpen. I'm 100%. If you're saying Ranger's going to be my closer, I'm okay with that. Make him your 9th inning guy, and then build around that, I think, for this team. Because a lot of the guys that we thought were back end guys maybe took a step back this year. I'm fine moving him to the 9th inning at this point.
I mean, that would be tremendous. I think it's a good spot for him. I just can't grade him anything of significance when he is a starting pitcher that can't give me more than 4 innings. Yeah. To me, I just can't. I love you. You got ice in your veins. You're a tremendous dude when the red light's on, but you can't give me more than 5 in a big game situation. And I don't know. I just don't know how to feel about Ranger. He's another enigma also. But I think he is better suited for the bullpen. But when you look at Jose Alvarado, was just a bona fide stud this season. Dominguez again took another step back, in my opinion. And then I gotta look at Hoffman was a huge find for the Phillies. Just a great find. Kimbrel, after the All-Star break, I just don't ever want to see this guy ever again. I don't ever want to see Craig Kimbrel ever again. Before the All-Star break, he looked like Kimbrel of old, But as soon as that after the All-Star break, after that happened, I was terrifying whenever he got the call to come
It
on
was
the
the
mound.
ponytail. The ponytail took all of his powers away.
Yeah, and I maybe that's what it
So hold on,
was.
you're grading pitching starters and bull because I think the bullpen was tough. Like certain guys, like it was when you see a guy to me like Sir Anthony with the step back, as great as Alvarado did for us this year. I think Sir Anthony to me, who I thought going forward was going to be looked at as that ninth inning
A
guy.
lot of us
Um,
did, yeah.
he really struggled, did not look like his old self. And Alvarado I think was huge. I think to me, if you can get him looking like that, if he finds his command, he's dangerous because he's dangerous when he doesn't know where it's going. So if he knew how to control that fastball and that sinker, he's going to be very, very good.
I agree. I mean that's they have guys in that bullpen who have electric stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirkering, again, like you said, I mean, that dude, I think in a year or two is absolutely closer material. It's just he was really put in some rough spots in the postseason. I blame Topper for that.
Yeah.
I think they have arms there. I think they have decisions to make because they do need a closer. I'm based on what this team does. I absolutely think Josh Hader can be here. I think that's a signing in the offseason that I think we should look out for. But overall, yeah, I'm grading. I'm grading the pitching staff and the bullpen as a whole, and I still got to give it a C. And the starting pitching brings that way down to me. And no, I can't include postseason, but the fact of outside of Zach Wheeler, who was your most trusted starter? Chris Sanchez.
It
It's
really
like,
felt like he feels like when you look at him, he feels like he can be a dude that has some good stuff. He
yeah,
has moments where you're looking at him where he's out there. I still believe, as much as I jumped off the bandwagon. Now I don't want him back at the price range he's probably going to
yeah,
command.
I know.
Um,
Yeah,
but I do think Nola can still be a very solid number two. I think the last projection I saw was 6 for 180. So I'm like, yeah, I'm out on
yeah.
him.
You see you never.
Yeah. Have a
That's a
good one,
hard
bud.
pass, man. Not a chance. Because if you give him that deal, you're basically signing nobody for a while. Like that pretty much probably wraps it up in terms of your spending. And we just can't have that. So yeah, overall, what did you give the pitching overall again?
So I was going to say, like, yeah, I'd probably go like you said. Probably if I'm going overall, it's going to be a C.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna stick with my C. And that's not the bullpen to me, as problemsome as they could be. That's the starters, and I'm glad Dombrowski um, talked about that and acknowledged that they need high end starting pitching. They really
I
do.
do think some of it too had to do. It feels like looking at the way the season played out, it felt like Dombrowski had plans for Painter, big plans for Painter this season.
I
That's
agree with
kind
you.
of my read to it. Because
Yeah,
he's a dude that's brought up starting pitching, young. So it really felt like, once Painter went down, they didn't have a backup plan for it. It kind of felt like that's what kind of, for, at least to me, looking from the outside, with the way they set everything up and they're pitching now, I think they had big plans for him. But
I agree.
that happens.
So here we are at the end of our 2023 eulogy of the Phillies. Jay, overall, what do you give this season?
You can't. I don't think you can go anything really less than a B plus. I think you have to be happy with what they did. While the first, month and a half, 2 months maybe sucked because you just didn't get what you expect from Trey and Bryce wasn't
Yeah,
there. The season as an overall, it's you never feel good when you don't win it all. But if you told me, this is kind of what I expected them to at least be in the NLCS. I definitely expected it. They met those
yeah,
expectations. Um, I do think offensively, I don't think Trey will do as bad as he did this season. And you're getting Bryce for a whole year next year.
yep.
So I expect, the second half of this season, they were one of the best teams in baseball. So I think a B plus is very much justified for this season.
I'm gonna go B plus as well, and we all know my expectations for this team were World Series, and that's what I predicted in March when we did our season preview show. I thought the Phillies were going to have a parade within the next couple days. It did not happen, but again, if you still would have told me, if anybody was sitting in my house with me and we were talking about the Phillies off the record, and they said to me, Chris, your team's going to win 90 games and you're going to be within a win of another World Series berth, what would you say? I'd say that's going to be a really fun season, and that's great. I mean, that's another good step for this team. I hope this franchise isn't going the route of that '08 squad where we already made the World Series, we just lost the NLCS. I hope we're not going backwards now. So that's my fear. I don't have any opinions on the offseason yet because I'm not going to sit here and try to tell everybody like they're going to do this or going to do that. We are not going to know anything for probably 3 weeks or so, a month once those winter meetings hit. And that's when we'll probably be back here. We're going to take a little bit of time. We might hop on here and there for spot shows and talk about some things. If any news comes out, any surgeries, anything like that. But we will be around and we'll pop on and do some streams. I know we're going to do a Q&A show soon. We'll come on here and answer y'all questions. I'm looking forward to doing something like that. But it's the off season, and I'm going to say to you what I'm very transparent with all of the people that's part of this show. I will not come on here and just do a show for the sake of doing a show. I care too much about the audience that we've built, and I care too much about quality content. So I'd rather give people quality over quantity because during the baseball season, we were here quite often with you guys every day. And November is legitimately just a thanks, Jason. November is just a dead time, a dead period for Major League Baseball. So is January. Usually February is when a lot of things start to pick up, whether it's trades, signings. But look, that could change at any time. That'd be great. Then we can hop on here during the winter and talk baseball. But keep it locked on our socials. We'll keep everybody updated, of course, with what we have planned for the offseason. We will be around. We're not just going to leave y'all. But thank you so much to the audience that joined us during the playoff run. I hope you guys stick around. If not, we're looking forward to you guys hopping back on in March, April when the 2024 season comes around. Head over to manscaped.com. Use our code baseball20. You get 20% off and free shipping off your order. It helps us out. Thank you once again to our partners over at SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com right now. Use our code ONTHEBUMP for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. And our brand new sponsors to this family is Routine Baseball. Head over to routine.com right now. They have a sale going on. I do know they're going to be dropping their fall line for the holidays very soon. It's going to be a lot. So excited for people to check that out. It's fashionable baseball wear. It's not, anything branded with teams or anything like that. It's just really good stuff. I've been wearing Routine Baseball for a decade now. But just stick with us. We'll be around. Thank you very much. I want to thank publicly Jason. I want to thank Dean. John was around for a cup of coffee. I'm sure he'll join us in the offseason at some point in next season. But thank you guys so much for everything that you do. You guys have to understand Jason works really hard to help me out with this show. And I'm eternally grateful for that. Without Jay, realistically, this thing does not go. That's why you guys noticed there was a couple times I couldn't make a show and Jay took over. And as Jay's as much a part of this as I am, I know I'm the creator of this. This is something that came from me. But this doesn't last. This is episode 86, 85. We don't get to episode, 85, 86 if Jason Kent's not part of this. So, Jason, thank you very much for this season. I think you might have missed 2 shows. So
maybe,
maybe. So thank you very much. You're an incredible friend.
It was not you talking. I'm just, my allergies.
That's it.
Not really crying. Just say no.
I understand. I understand.
I'm a man's man.
Yeah, that's that. You
Check
are.
this out.
Oh man! But thank you very much. You're one of my best friends. You're a diehard Phillies fan. I'm looking forward to the off season, and I'm looking forward to getting the episode 200 coming up next season. So thank you very much. Also to Dean. Every superhero needs an anti-hero, and so Dean is our anti-hero. Our what is he, the antagonist on this show? So it helps us out, and it really does, and it's his honest opinions. He's very honest about that stuff, so it's always good to have a contrarian talking on this channel. So thank you guys very much. This has been the 2023 eulogy of the Philadelphia Phillies. Man, hoping for a different result next year. But until then, I'm Chris C. Francisco. That's Jason Kent, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Go Phillies.